Hey everyone, it's Brett Hornby here, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Definitely have gathered some thoughts on this news story, talking about let's just say the Canadian Football League, the CFL, and the Xtreme Football League, the XFL. Let's just say they've been in discussion on partnership. Or could we potentially have a merger with the two football leagues? I definitely have many opinions on this potential news story. I think it's not going to actually, if anything happens, it's not going to happen until at least the 2022 or maybe 2023. But both sides have acknowledged that we're in discussions on possibly partnership, and some are even thinking about the merger, which bodes various questions like, what kind of game are we going to see? Could there be beneficial for both leagues either way, in terms of, well, let's say the Canadian Football League, definitely has had a nice long tradition that's been around for, the roots of it goes back to over 100 years. Heck, we've had 107 Grey Cup championships, going all the way back to the rugby days, and that's where the Canadian game evolved from. But the league definitely has hit on hard times many times before, but with last season being wiped out with the global pandemic with COVID-19, the league apparently has lost between $60 to $80 million. But we have our unique game with their 3 downs and wider field, and the 12 players on the field to accommodate the wider field, and the posts at the goal line as opposed to in the back of the end line, where American rules in a bigger end zone. But then if you look at the XFL, it's a modified, some rules are different, but it's all based on the American game, the American gridiron, like the NFL, with the 100 yards and only 11 players on the field. But I would think this partnership potentially could be that maybe you can have a player that could play both in the XFL and in the CFL. Because if a couple seasons that the XFL has been around, or at least the 2.0 version, where it started in 2020, and it also wasn't able to finish the season because of the global pandemic. And you also got to think things might be serious, where the XFL says that they're putting everything on hold until 2022, that they're not going to play this season, either modified with fans or without fans. The NFL managed to play the whole season and crown a Super Bowl champion. 7 rings, Tom Brady. Ariana Grande's hit for Tom Brady now. Just got to throw that in there. But the NFL is always king. The XFL is kind of like, sort of a spring league, because it goes from February till April, or at least the planned season, and then the CFL goes from June till the end of November. But what do you think of this potential, partnership, merger? You could say that the XFL might be looking towards the CFL, just on the proud and long tradition and heritage, especially with, all the traditions like Labor Day, the Grey Cup. The CFL did explore in the US before to kind of prop themselves up in the mid-1990s, but they played Canadian rules down there, and the only team that was successful was the Baltimore Stallions, that ultimately won the Grey Cup in 1995, and then when the Cleveland Browns relocated to Baltimore to have the Baltimore Ravens, that ultimately made it not viable, so ultimately they're now the modern day Montreal Alouettes. But it was scattered all over, and I know the original plan for the CFL in the US was basically maybe having teams in, close to border cities, like maybe having a team in Montana, or a team in like Tacoma or something, or just over the border, and that didn't work out. But I'm going to think that that's what the XFL is looking towards, and then maybe the CFL is looking towards the marketing. Maybe this could potentially be beneficial for both leagues, just to increase the exposure and maybe prop each other up. The XFL, had 2 kicks at the can. They had their only season in 2001, and folded that was backed by, WWE promoter Vince McMahon, and it was a loss, but I hear he's still doing alright. He's a billionaire, but now the Rock, Dwayne Johnson, apparently owns the XFL, and he actually has some CFL, ties where he was here in training camp for the Calgary Stampeders. Never actually played, but then he was cut, and he looks back, and apparently that was like the best thing for his career, because since then he's parlayed that into WWE and being an actor. And you almost got to admire that. You could say Dwayne Johnson definitely has a, the big name, but just how he's acted. Like one movie he's a badass action hero or enemy, whatever you want to put it in, and then the next week he's in a Disney family movie. I think he ranged from being in Fast and Furious or The Tooth Fairy, but I think that's the only thing that I could see maybe this being a good thing, kind of just to prop up both leagues. Maybe give another avenue to try to get exposure to the NFL, as it's most of the season is off. NFL season, I mean the CFL, the fall going into the Grey Cup happens during, when the NFL starts. I mean, as long as, if this potential partnership or merger, maybe have players that can play for both leagues, get games in development, or just have business ventures. I just hope it doesn't come at the expense of some of the Canadian rules, or maybe even Canadian traditions. I mean, I could maybe see this being two different identities because of the different times of the year that they play, but maybe have exclusive rights for both leagues. I mean, heck, could potentially maybe an exhibition game, or don't know if it's gonna be blended. I mean, that could be nice if let's say as a Stampeder fan, maybe the Calgary Stampeders were playing in San Diego. Don't know, but I mean, it's just I have mixed opinions. I mean, I could maybe see some optimism, but I'm just not sure. It's just hope it doesn't come to the expense of the Canadian game. And I think the soonest potentially anything could happen would be 2022 or 2023. I know there was some rumors out there that because of this made the CFL won't play until 2022. But I think the CFL, they definitely need to play this season somewhere and be able to, get fans in attendance. But what do you think of this potential partnership? I mean, I could see it maybe benefit both leagues, but I just don't know if he's, would it become at the expense of some of the Canadian traditions. So, as I say, if you want to follow along with Calgary sports fans' journey home the Flames, Hitmen, and Roughnecks and Stampeders, just make sure you subscribe. I mostly do talk Calgary sports on my YouTube channel, and being a CFL fan, I definitely had some interest in. I've been fairly busy recently, but it allowed me some time to gather some thoughts on this potential story that came out late last week, that the CFL and the XFL, at least they've been in discussions. But I also do personal vlogs, attempt to comedy, and also do share my experience. Let's say I'm on the road or at a sporting event. So if that all sounds like it'd be interesting to watch, to follow along with this Calgary sports fans' journey, you know what to do. Just make sure you subscribe. I also have my other social links down in the description below. So who knows, maybe in a couple of years, we'll be talking about CFL and XFL, the Calgary Stampeders playing in a hybrid league, or maybe encounter new rivalries, or could we have more American teams win the Grey Cup in the future because we have American teams that are in the XFL right now joining the CFL? I mean, I know that some former CFL coaches were coached in the XFL in 2020, including June Jones, who most notably coached in Hamilton, including briefly with Johnny Manziel, Mark Trestman, who was mostly with Montreal and Toronto, and even Bart Andrews. Remember when he was in Toronto? So there could be some blended. I mean, some players from the Calgary Stampeders in the past, like Jermaine Copeland, played in both leagues, or Travis Moore, who knows? But this is just my various thoughts and opinions on this potential story on the CFL, XFL. At least talking. They're talking right now, but it sounds like there might be, potential merger or some kind of partnership. So I just want to say thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.